Okay, so where was I? Yeah, fuck the debt ceiling. I genuinely don't care. The federal government doesn't care. We sink $1 to $2 trillion every single year for the past 15 years into a black hole that everybody wants to tell me is statistically and fundamentally and fiscally impossible. How could it possibly be impossible if we're doing it every year? And going, oh, whoops, about it. Like, our interest payments this year and last year were less than $1 trillion. And we were talking about $6 trillion in expenditure. What are we talking about? At best, there's $4 trillion in the room with us. In a truly sparse world, there's $3 trillion in the room with us, and we always go over it. Whilst your elected officials have you out here debating whether or not this shit is possible or good or like should happen in the fucking first place, they are actively spending money we don't have. So I'm sorry, but the conversation should really be about what we're spending this imaginary money on, because we're still spending it. For instance, the Defense Department was awarded somewhere around $800 billion last year, and this year it is exactly $682 billion, according to the Department of the Treasury, so, you know. But according to all known estimates, including the Department of Defense's own estimates, they have spent $1.92 trillion this year. If you can agree that keeping our country safe from foreign invaders is so important that you must add an extra $1 trillion to the federal deficit, then you have to agree that keeping our citizens safe indoors in our country is just as important. And you might want to use this to talk about border policy or whatever, but genuinely, who cares when the numbers of car deaths eclipse the number of people who jump over the border? Like, the city of New York is fighting back and forth about subway cars all the fucking time, when the truth is we have $200 billion to extend the Department of Transportation's budget to cut $50 billion out for federal grants. $2 billion of those federal grants can go towards monorail projects or just simply better subway cars. It would not be the first time that the federal government stepped in to help fund a fucking state or local initiative like that. And since we're simply talking about extending a grant and we're not talking about oversight capacity, we're not talking about federal jurisdiction overriding state jurisdiction, so it should be free and clear. And that's just like subways. Do not get me started on your healthcare. It is also a little tricky because I've seen the Medicaid and Medicare budgets, and I do have to tell you that out of all of the public goods and works that we could be funding, that is one of the most expensive. It is incredibly necessary, but do understand that if your cost of living wasn't exorbitant, you would be able to afford private insurance. Also understand that if we had strict regulations on these private insurance companies in the first place, and I do mean strict, then they wouldn't be able to raise your premium for like a sneeze. It will not be the exact same implementation, but we can implement insurance control or premium control in much in the similar way that we do rent control. These are private corporations that are trusted to administer public services. Very little context has changed in that regard. And again, you have been fooled, tricked, hoodwinked, bamboozled into these conversations about socialism or communism, where it's like these ideologies exist, right? But saying stuff like what I've been saying to you over the past 3 minutes is not automatically socialism and it's not automatically communism. You've been tricked into debating ideology whilst the federal government is spending the money that I have just described to you on shit that is not materially affecting your life, whilst your life is getting more expensive. So what are we talking about?